What's up, guys? I'm Chad Barnes, and welcome to the channel. Here, it's all about real car talk, from simple fixes to smart driving tips and keeping your ride in top shape. If that sounds good to you, go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button, and make sure you watch all the way through. There's a lot of good stuff coming. Let's get to it.
Lexus ES with the Index 1560 appeared in 2012, literally a few months later than the Toyota Camry 1550, and together with it stayed on the assembly line until 2018. An important achievement of the sixth generation was that the sedan finally distanced itself from the Camry, at least externally, having received a different outline and refined body structure. In addition, the length relative to Toyota here is longer by 7.5 centimeters, of which 4.5 came to the wheelbase. However, technically, the models are still close. First of all, they shared not old Platform K, on which was built not only the 1540, the 1530 is also from the early 2000s. Well, the kinship in suspension design, steering, transmissions and engine range traditionally reminds about the kinship with the People's brand. However, we love it exactly for the above-mentioned set of components. Let's have a look, whether it is possible to receive from Lexus simplicity of Camry, but qualitatively different perception of the automobile. Quality is expected from Lexus, and this word is applicable to the body, albeit with a few remarks. Yes, the paintwork here is rather thin and not the most durable, but at least the chips do not rust in the first month. Nevertheless, inspection of the hood, windshield frame, and the glass itself is worthwhile not only for frontal accident, but also from the point of view of operational defects. You should also look for them under the sill plates and underneath, in the seam area, as well as in the door openings and on the lower edges of the doors. The probability of serious corrosion here is only in beaten cars, but pitting spots and scuffs are also found in whole cars. But on the bottom the probability to meet rust is higher. It will be here not only in suspension mounting points, but also on the body itself. The same concerns wheel arches. Additional noise insulation in comparison with Camry is not only acoustic comfort, but also moisture absorbing materials, which for 8 years can already lead to deplorable condition of internal cavities. The age problems are still small and gentle, although sometimes considerable investments are required for their qualitative elimination. For example, on the trunk lid, rust sooner or later crawls out from under the chrome cover over the license plate, and it can be found both above and below in the camera area. The result is usually repainting of the whole trunk lid, so you cannot be surprised by the double layer. The chrome itself, even though there is not so much of it, becomes cloudy after a few years and then peels off. The sunroof not only leaks, but also knocks. It's either the guides or the perimeter seals that need replacing. Fortunately, the seal fits from a Camry. But body parts from Camry do not fit, and the prices for the original are exhilarating. In addition, there are practically no scrapyards for the model, so it is unlikely to find something cheap. As a result, even with a small frontal accident, you have to choose between quality and price. For example, the original bumper costs $25,000 to $30,000, and of the alternatives, only China for $12,000. And we are talking only about the bumper itself, and trim in the form of grills, frames, chrome, and other things will easily run into another $30,000 to $40,000 if you buy the original plastic, which does not need to fit in place. For the windshield, which costs $50,000, there are alternatives for $8,000 to $20,000. You just need to make no mistake with a set of comfort options in the form of heaters and sensors. The hood can also be bought for $12,000 to $15,000 instead of $60,000, but the diode optics has a six-figure price tag and only their original execution, unlike Xenon, which is available from depot for $20,000. In general, you'll have to look for a headlight from a beat-up car for $30,000 to $60,000. Suspensions of Lexus have received own settings, but familiar from Camry design. It is a scheme of McPherson both in front and behind. In addition, there were no complications like air cylinders or adaptive shock absorbers. As a result, the cost of service comes out not in a pre-modern way pennies. Shock absorbers from KYB at $4,000 instead of $10,400. The original, stabilizer struts at 400 rubles, rear levers at $5,000, and front ball bearings at $500. Of course, in the list above intentionally given minimum prices, which are better to avoid, but the essence is clear, the unification of the chassis with Camry promises the widest choice of non-original components, of which it remains to choose quality ones. The same is fully true of the brakes. Lexus has received usual single-piston front mechanisms, so discs with diameter of 296 mm here are the same as on Camry, RAV4 and even Auris. On the one hand, it is quite reliable in operation and extremely cheap in service and repair. On the other hand, the owners rightly think that on a premium sedan with 3.5-litre V6 such brakes look, to put it mildly, not solid enough, so some even dare to install more powerful brakes from Highlander, RX, and Sienna. Good thing that they stand without alterations. Steering is simpler. The steering rack with electric power steering is also borrowed from Camry with a small readjustment, but there is no alternative for those who do not like empty and uninformative steering wheel. But the rack, if necessary, it is possible to buy in assembly literally for 10 to 20,000 instead of 45,000 for the original. And appearing knocks are eliminated without serious investments. The only disadvantage is the amplifier on the steering shaft, which is offered only as an assembly for a six-figure sum. Here, in case of malfunction, you will have to look for repair options, relying on the popularity of the donor. In spite of the fact that competitors, including Japanese, in those years already had 8-speed automatic transmissions, Lexus, not wisely, used the same 6-speed automatics of U760 and U660 series as on Camry. The division also remained unchanged. More strong U660 got only ES350 with V6 engine, and all other versions received in pair U760 U761. The boxes in general are very good, especially under condition of oil change once in 50 to 60,000 kilometers. In this case, active work of torque converter lock affects less on oil condition, and the automatic transmission is able to pass more than 250,000 kilometers before the first opening. Well, about the problems with the bearing, friction, and rear cover, we told in detail in the Toyota Camry the only important difference. ES, the presence of a hybrid version, where the transmission is stepless. Hybrid, however, can be safely left behind brackets. Firstly, such cars are vanishingly rare, less than 10% of those sold on Avito at the time of writing, and secondly, unjustifiably troublesome in the maintenance of hybrid superstructure. The motor in the hybrid version, by the way, is quite ordinary. 2AR-FXE is a version of the standard 2.5-litre 2AR-FE, reconfigured to work on the Atkinson cycle. It is the 2AR-FE that can be considered the most popular. Before restyling it was basic, and after restyling its success was influenced not only by a comfortable power of 184 horsepower, but also by the logic of filling the kits, which encouraged buyers to choose it over the new basic 6AR-FSE with 2 litres and 150 horsepower. Thus 5-litre motor is quite good, partly by its conservatism, cast iron liners in an aluminum block, reliable chain timing and distributed injection. Nevertheless, there are hydro compensators in the valve train, and there are phase adjusters on both intake and exhaust camshafts. Actually, the phase shifters and hydro compensators should be paid attention to when cold starting a motor with low mileage. On more aged copies it is necessary to study the history of service, in particular, cooling system, including pump, and intake. The more modern 2-litre 6AR-FSE is similar in general design, but here the combined injection system adds future trouble. Early cars with this motor are already 5 years old, so buyers should remember that the direct injection injector costs $30,000. Not 10 to 15 as the neighboring distributed injection injector, and the cost of the fuel pump is 6 figures. So here the cost of refueling with low-quality fuel can be very high. The top motor in the lineup was familiar on Camry V6, 2GR-FE. Its presence was obligatory. Firstly, it would be strange to deprive Lexus of a powerful version, which even Toyota has, and secondly, internal competition with rear-wheel drive and driving GS could not be feared, because these were cars with fundamentally different ideology. Engine 2GR-FE is quite good, and by 2012 an addition has already been cured from children's diseases, so it can be considered as a good choice. Of course, it is more expensive in maintenance simply by virtue of its design. There are twice as many phaser regulators as in line. For inch, chain timing is supplemented with small chains between camshafts, and the cost of works on replacement will be higher. However, both this and fuel consumption of 15 litres per 100 seem quite justified payment for dynamics. And now, having briefly found out that it will be much more expensive to buy Lexus ES than to keep it, we can try to make a portrait of an optimal copy. The most logical choice for those who want to get maximum premium sensations seems to be a sedan with V6. From Pleasant here it is possible to note classical Japanese wisdom on defortification of a motor up to 249 h.p., which makes possession of the car not burdensome from the point of view of the tax. In addition, the cars with V6 are characterized by guaranteed good equipment. It was not offered in poor versions. And we can also hope that powerful Lexus, unlike Camry, was bought less often by young and ambitious. After all, additional payment of $500,000 to $800,000 does not affect dynamics in any way. Accordingly, the condition of the motor and transmission will be better for calmer drivers. However, ES on V6 are priced correspondingly high. More than $2 million is needed for a restyled sedan. Thus, for our $1.7 million you can choose from two options. The first is a choice among the best pre-restyling cars with V6. For $1.7 million you can find a copy of 2015 with a mileage of about 100,000 kilometers, for example, like this for the motor. And box, 100,000 is just the beginning of the journey, and good equipment comes automatically. So the main thing is to confirm the honesty of the mileage and the absence of serious accidents. For example, with the help of the Autoteca. If the condition of the car and the mileage seem more important than dynamics, then with the same budget you can take a swing at the restyling ES, but with a 2.5-liter engine. Here it is necessary to search for an optimum combination of a complete set, mileage, and price, but the logical choice seems to be approx like this, a car with a mileage of about 50,000 kilometers. It remains only to understand for itself whether you are ready to overpay for a brand, though this investment also for sure will compensate itself at sale. We have two strong Japanese automobile magic. In conclusion, the Lexus ES VI, priced at 1.7 million rubles, presents a compelling case for those seeking a luxury vehicle that offers long-term value. While the initial investment may be significant, the low maintenance costs and reliability associated with the Lexus brand can make it a wise choice for buyers. Ultimately, if you prioritize comfort, performance, and peace of mind in ownership, the Lexus ES VI could very well be worth the price tag. Consider your personal needs and budget, and weigh the benefits against the cost to determine if this luxury sedan aligns with your lifestyle.